The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Talking politics with Phil Goff.
Politics with the leader of the Labour Party, of course, Phil Goff. Hello to you, Phil.
G'day, Wammo.
How you doing?
Yeah, good, mate, good. Just on my way down to Nelson. We've got a couple of days down in Nelson with the Labour Party caucus, and had a weekend all over the country. Been down in Dunedin, Christchurch, Whakatane, Apotiki, just getting around, meeting with people, and talking about the forthcoming budget.
And, of course, no doubt also talking about GST. Now, I was wondering this morning if we could get a definite stance with Labour on GST, because on one hand you're against a GST rise, but on the other you wouldn't take away the rise if you got into power. So where are you standing at the moment?
Well, what we're doing is we're looking at all the options. What we know about GST is that it's going to unfairly impact on lower and middle income earners, and the other tax changes are going to disproportionately benefit those at the top. So we've really got three of the options we're looking at. First of all, it is possible to reverse the GST, but that's a $2 billion call. The second option would be to utilise the money not simply to heavily reward the top 7 or 8% of the population, but to share it more fairly around the other 92% of the tax-paying public. The third option, and these aren't exclusive options, is to look at what a lot of people are calling for, which is some form of exemptions from GST. Now, that's not my first preference. I've always supported a low GST without exemptions. But people, for example, nutritionists have said to me, well, why don't you look at something like fresh fruit and vegetables, because that if you made that cheaper in comparison to other foods, that would boost the health of the community. It would also cut the bills of the lower income families for whom those sort of things are part of their staple diet.
Don't they do that in Australia?
Yeah, Australia and the United Kingdom both exempt aspects of food from GST. And, our argument was always if you kept GST low, you needed to have it across the board, and that was the most efficient way to do it. But they're pushing GST up to 15% now. There's a possibility that it'll go higher, 17.5% or 20%.
Blimey.
And if you're going to do that sort of thing, you can't continue to hammer people on the basic items that they need for everyday life without really, we're facing a situation at the moment where wage and salary earners have had their lowest income increases in more than a decade last year, and yet prices are going up. ACC levies, you're going to have your mortgage interest rises later this year. You're going to have the emissions trading scheme increases in petrol and power, and this is putting huge pressure on people's incomes.
Although John Key has slammed the suggestion that you could be taking GST off some foods as desperate. He says you're desperate, Phil.
Well, at least I didn't lie like he did before the last election saying National will not be increasing GST. He made that promise to the nation. He's broken his word on that. He's in no position to criticise anyone else, frankly.
Let's look at the budget, because that is coming up. So I guess some details were possibly sort of leaked over the last few days, and saying that science will be at the heart of the budget. In fact, actually, John Key said that himself. Science will be at the heart of the budget. Now, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, well, it is. If it was such a good idea, then why did he cut the 15% tax credit on research and development in last year's budget? And why did he disband the $700 million Fast Forward Fund that was designed to promote science, research and development in our primary sector?
I guess he's got some better...
up last year. Now they look like they're going to do a U-turn.
Well, perhaps he's come up with some better ideas than those.
Well, it's a little bit like the home insulation scheme. The first thing they did after the election was to scrap Labor's program for retrofitting houses with better insulation to save costs and to make warmer, healthier homes. And then within months they'd bought it back, but they'd rebranded it, called it by a different name and claimed credit for it. So you've got to be a bit cynical about it, Wammo.
Well, because so you're saying science, technology and innovation. I really do like those three words. They're the most excellent words, although not so much if it was only in agriculture. I'm hoping that they will spread this out across some smarter industries, not just agriculture.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the Fast Forward Fund was looking at the primary sector, and that includes things like forestry, where there's there's huge potential to turn trees into biofuels and other things. What the research and development tax credit did was really help those innovative firms that were at the cutting edge of technology development. And we've got good firms that can do that, and we can't simply rely on commodities because, while the commodity prices are the highest ever at the moment, they don't necessarily stay that way. We've got to look at other things that we can do and things that will provide employment opportunities for the best and the brightest to avoid losing those people overseas.
And things that aren't going to tear down our environment at the same time as well, like the dairy industry.
Absolutely. You've got to think beyond the let's send the bulldozers into the national parks and rip them up to get a bit of gold from which New Zealand gets very little benefit. You've got to look at. One of the things that I'd be keen on seeing the budget promote is clean tech industries, looking at different technologies that are based on sustainable resource use and clean energy. That's what Obama's promoting in the United States.
Yeah.
That'd make a lot of sense to do that here as well.
Yep, and also this morning the predicted mining rethink, possibly downgrading some of the land that they were going to be thinking about mining to lesser value conservation land, I think they're saying now.
Well, where did we start off? We started off with Jerry Brownlee and even worse, Kate Wilkinson, the Minister of Conservation, putting up a cabinet paper saying they wanted to open up for mining 467,000 hectares of national park and protected conservation areas. That shrunk to 7,000. Unfortunately, for us as Aucklanders, that 7,000 included the Coromandel and Great Barrier. 40,000 of us marched down Queen Street to tell the government what we thought about that. I'm expecting them to back off, to do another flip-flop. Now they're saying, well, we're going to do conservation land but not the protected areas. Well, they can do that under law with rigid and stringent environmental protections. But they've backed down mightily from the day when Jerry Brownlee was claiming that the solution to all of New Zealand's economic problems was to rip up the national parks.
Hey, finally, just I want to quickly touch on Jim Anderton. He is running for the Mayor of Christchurch in the next race there. That means that'll see him eventually out of politics. Would there have been a place for Jim anyway in the next Labour government?
Oh, look, I've got a huge respect for Jim Anderton. We've had our differences in the past, which is very obvious, but through the 9 years of the Labour government, he worked positively and constructively alongside us, to the point that there was very little that divided Jim Anderton's party from what the Labour Party was doing. And we had such a level of respect for what he was capable of. We made him the opposition spokesperson on agriculture. I think Jim will make a great mayor of Christchurch. I think he'll get that job, and we really wish him well in his endeavours.
But would it be fair to say that he did lose his greatest ally in the Labour Party? That was Helen when she left, and perhaps he had a better relationship with Helen than he possibly would do with you?
Oh, no, not at all. I meet with Jim very regularly. There is no significant issue that divides us. We get on very well personally. Jim was considering whether he'd stay in Parliament, obviously, beyond 2011. He's been there now for 24 years, and he was looking at whether he wanted to stay in Parliament or look at doing something else. I think that Christchurch needs a strong mayor, and I think he's the person for the job.
Phil Goff, thanks very much for your time this morning.
Okay, thanks, Wammo. Cheers, mate.
Leader of the Labour Party, Phil Goff, there with us.